The WrestleMania III match featuring Hulk Hogan vs Andre the Giant was the first truly epic main event match in WrestleMania history. Held at the Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit on March 29, 1987, the irresistible force meeting the immovable object would become a moment in wrestling lore that would live forever. Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant is one of those defining images in wrestling. Everyone has saw it, and due to its inclusion in WWE's opening signatures for shows, wrestling fans have probably saw it thousands of times without even realising it. So our look at the entire career of Hulk Hogan stops off today at WrestleMania III as we look into one of the most pivotal matches in the history of professional wrestling. So in the last Hulk Hogan video uploaded to the channel, we learned about the Hulkster's rise in not only wrestling but pop culture itself. Vince McMahon had hand-selected Hogan as the face of his company as the WWF began a national and eventual worldwide expansion. Hulk was going to pretty much be the poster boy for the company. Portraying an American hero who would tell us to train hard, eat our vitamins and say our prayers, Hulk was booked as the unbeatable hero world champion, the shining star of the company. Fans ate it up too. Viewers of the World Wrestling Federation during this time couldn't get enough Hulk Hogan, while some of the more traditional fans of the NWA scoffed at Vince McMahon and the Hulk Hogan push. You can't argue with the results though. The WWF became very popular with casual fans, young and old, and Hogan played an insanely huge part in making it all work. The WrestleMania project of 1985 had paid off. The sequel ended up getting 3 separate venues, and the third would be held in front of a record audience never seen before in the United States. Hulk Hogan, of course, would be in the main event. Andre the Giant made his WWF debut in 1973 as a babyface, eventually becoming known as the 8th wonder of the world. It was frequently said on headsets and in WWF publications that Andre was undefeated during the entirety of his career, right up until 1987 anyway. This is incorrect. Andre had never been pinned or submitted in a WWF ring. He had been counted out and disqualified, and outside the World Wrestling Federation he had taken losses in Mexico and Japan. Those who watched my previous Hogan videos also would know that Andre had already had matches with Hulk where Hogan was the heel and Andre was the fan favourite. Hogan had even body slammed Andre during these earlier matches too. But as with most things when it comes to WWE booking, why let the facts ruin a good story? Hogan and Andre had also worked against each other in Japan where the roles were reversed again. Hogan is the babyface and Andre is the heel, so these two were no strangers to each other. Prior to the WrestleMania III build-up, Hogan and Andre had been booked as allies. Andre even celebrated with the Hulkster when Hogan won the WWF Championship for the very first time. What you have to remember though is that Andre the Giant was a true attraction. In the era before cable TV, the first time people saw a man of this size was when they first laid eyes on Andre. He truly was an extraordinary real-life giant. When you have an attraction like Andre the Giant and a real-life superhero like Hulk Hogan, you best believe that their on-screen friendship would take a bad turn in order to sell tickets. Wrestling 101. Andre took some time off after WrestleMania II to try and heal his back among other things. Andre's spine had been narrowing and he was having difficulties not only wrestling, but even walking and going about his every day-to-day life. He went to England to film the Princess Bride movie, but back in the world of wrestling, Bobby Heenan would claim that Andre was actually afraid of King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd, hence his absence from the ring. Heenan laid out challenges for Andre and Andre wouldn't show up, leading to a kayfabe suspension of the Giant from WWF President Jack Tunney. In the summer of 1986, however, Andre the Giant made his return as the Masked Giant Machine, working as part of the Machine stable that also included Big Machine, played by Blackjack Mulligan, and Super Machine, played by Bill Eadie, better known as Demolition Axe. The Machines, in storyline, had come from Japan to wrestle in the WWF, with their masks taking inspiration, or rather directly copying, from New Japan's Super Strong Machine character. It was extremely obvious that it was Andre after all, but Heenan could never prove it. At one point, Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper were also members of the Machines, with both men making one-time appearances as Hulk Machine and Piper Machine. Hulk needed to work on his incognito skills though. In late 1986, the Giant Machine disappeared and Andre the Giant was magically reinstated. On the January 17th, 1987 episode of Superstars, Hulk Hogan was presented with a trophy for holding the WWF Championship for 3 years. Andre the Giant, Hogan's friend, came out and said 3 years is a long time to be champion, giving the Hulkster a very firm handshake that caught the Hulkster by surprise. The next week, Andre was also honoured for his undefeated streak, however his trophy was much smaller. Hulk Hogan came out to give props to Andre, but the Giant walked off stage in the middle of the promo. Hogan had come across here as trying to steal Andre's spotlight. To figure out what was going on here, an interview was scheduled between the two men on February 7th, 1987, again in Piper's Pit. This segment here would also become famous in its own right, the day when Andre turned heel and challenged Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was introduced first here, but the big shock came when Andre the Giant came out with Bobby Heenan by his side, made more shocking when you consider how long Heenan and Andre had been feuding with each other. Hogan pleaded with Andre not to associate himself with Bobby Heenan, reminding the Giant about all the things he had done to both Andre and Hogan in the past. Heenan spoke on behalf of Andre, saying that Andre is sick and tired of Hulk Hogan and everything he stands for. Heenan said that Hogan had used Andre during his title reign, and he only befriended Andre to ensure that the Giant wouldn't challenge him for the WWF title. This was really good stuff here, especially for this time period. Hogan's previous big feuds didn't have so much emotion attached to them, so this story here of a broken down friendship really helped to make more of their inevitable showdown. Putting Bobby Heenan with Andre was extremely smart too. Heenan could talk for days and he had the ability to get stories across in an entertaining and believable way. As a heel manager, this segment here was some of Heenan's finest work. I don't care what anyone says either, Hulk Hogan does deserve credit here too. He played the part perfectly, frantically pleading with Andre, not wanting to believe that this was true, visibly shaking on camera. Yes, it's cheesy today, but put yourself back in that time frame, being a little Hulkamaniac and all that. You would have felt like the world had come crashing down here because Hogan couldn't get through to his former best friend. The segment ended in dramatic fashion too. Andre said he was coming for Hogan's championship at WrestleMania, and he tore the shirt off Hogan's back. Andre, however, also caught Hogan's necklace, breaking it from his neck, and the crucifix attached to the necklace must have caught Hogan's chest as the Hulkster started bleeding. Taking immediate advantage of the situation here, Roddy Piper told Hogan that he was bleeding as the Hulkster fell to his knees in despair. Hogan revealed that he put some Vicks Vapor Rub on his finger before coming out, and as Andre rips the shirt, he tries to put the Vapor Rub under his eyes to force tears to stream from his face, and you can actually see this when you slow the footage down, so this is some good stuff here. An incredibly good segment, the first really engrossing promo leading into a WrestleMania main event. The WWF hit a genuine home run here. Never had Hulk Hogan appeared so vulnerable. So Andre had sold his soul to Bobby Heenan in order to become WWF champion, a huge deal here in the world of wrestling. Andre had never gone after the championship in New York, at least on TV, and this makes sense because he just didn't need it. He sold tickets without needing a championship belt. Andre had always explained this on TV as being happy with being the Giant and not being the WWF champion. Hogan went back on Piper's Pit and confirmed he would face Andre at WrestleMania, and a contract signing aired on TV which only further built on the story. Hogan told Andre that if he wanted a title shot so badly, all he had to do was ask. Andre said he may have taught Hogan a few things in wrestling, but he didn't teach him everything, and he will leave WrestleMania as the world champion. The Pontiac Silverdome was one of the largest stadiums in the world with a capacity of nearly 100,000 people. Vince McMahon felt that Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant could sell out this gigantic stadium, and you really have to appreciate the risk factor here in booking this venue. Remember, this was 1987. Vince McMahon was betting on the popularity of Hulk Hogan, the attraction of Andre the Giant, and the broken friendship storyline to make people buy tickets. Of course, there were other matches that would entice fans to the Silverdome. No one can forget Steamboat vs Savage, even Harley Race versus the Junkyard Dog, and also the rise of the WWF's tag team division at the time. But Andre vs Hulk was the marquee match here. If WrestleMania III didn't move tickets, then the storyline and drawing power of Hulk vs Andre would have been deemed a failure. A week after tickets went on sale, the WWF announced on TV that it looks like a new attendance record would be set at WrestleMania. The build-up and the storyline had paid off as Vince McMahon saw ticket sales go up and up on a daily basis. WrestleMania 3 would be at nearly full capacity. During WrestleMania, the WWF announced an attendance of 93,173, a number that's been disputed due to the company's habits of inflating numbers. But don't get all Dave Meltzer over it. Look at that audience. For a 1987 wrestling show in America, it really is a breathtaking sight. Let's not forget about pay-per-view numbers too. If Hogan and Andre were selling out the Pontiac Silverdome, then fans across America would also be tuning in via pay-per-view in record numbers. John Cena summed it up well when he said, "Everybody had to see it and everybody could see it, which was really cool." When WrestleMania 3 aired, the Cena household became the Pontiac Silverdome. 50 people came over to the house. Aunts, uncles and cousins I never even knew existed came over that day to watch WrestleMania. It was that captivating. Let's look at the match then, but do stick around because there are other things that need discussed here. Andre and Heenan made their way to the ring while garbage was getting thrown at them. Gorilla Monsoon says on commentary that Andre had been brainwashed by Bobby Heenan, while Jesse Ventura reminds Monsoon that Andre has been overlooked for years and he deserves this title opportunity. Hogan makes his way to the ring as Real American plays in the background. He panders to the audience. Then the two men lock eyes as the theme music dies down. Hogan and Andre approach each other, and Gorilla Monsoon gives us the iconic line, "The irresistible force meeting the immovable object." Can you recall a commentary line in the last 10 years that would become as iconic as this? The two stare down a little longer before Andre makes the first move, pushing Hogan away. Hogan retaliates with a series of punches, and man, the crowd explodes here at Hogan's offense. Hulk quickly tries to body slam Andre, but he is unable to. Andre falls on Hogan and pins the Hulkster, and Andre thought he won the match. He thought it was a 3 count here, but only 2. Andre then begins laying in giant clubbing blows to Hogan, each one knocking Hogan to the mat. Andre then drives Hogan to the mat with a big body slam, and things are already looking bad here for the Hulkster. Jesse Ventura realizes on the headset that this WrestleMania main event is a mismatch. Hogan hasn't got a chance. The noise from the audience cannot be overstated. They try to rally behind Hogan as he takes a slow and calculated beating from Andre. Hogan manages to escape an attack from Andre in the corner, and the crowd again goes into overdrive at Hulk's flurry of offense, but Andre stops the Hulkster with a big boot, silencing the audience in the process. Andre locks in a bear hug. Gorilla Monsoon says he would be surprised if Hogan submits, while Jesse says he may not have a choice. Hogan seems to fade away, but he fights out with punches. The Hulkster again tries to mount an attack on Andre, but Andre stops Hogan in his tracks. The match then spills to the outside, and after Andre headbutts the ring post, Hogan exposes the concrete floor, resulting in Hulk himself taking a comically bad looking back body drop on the outside. Back in the ring, Hogan is able to take Andre off his feet with a clothesline, and again, the Pontiac Silverdome becomes deafening. Hulk stands up, delivers a body slam to Andre, nails the leg drop, and it's all over. The body slam too has become iconic. The flashing camera bulbs and the crowd noise make it such a great moment in wrestling history that deserves to get replayed as much as it does. You need to watch this with the sound on. It's one thing seeing the clip of Andre getting slammed, but when you take in the full match in this moment right here, it could truly give you goosebumps. Hogan wins, he celebrates in the ring as Heenan and Andre make their way back up the ramp. There's a real party atmosphere here to end WrestleMania III. Okay, there's a few elephants in the room that need addressed. The first will be quick. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer likes to share his opinions on wrestling with an imaginary star rating he makes up in his head, and people seem to take his word as gospel. Meltzer gave this match -4 stars, and after some consideration, he changed the rating to -3 stars. I had scripted a paragraph here regarding this being Andre's last big match when he knew he had limited time left on this earth, how no one should have expected a technical masterpiece, how the passing of time has made this match just as important as WrestleMania itself, and in the end, I think it's just best to leave Meltzer's rating standing there and let you make up your own mind. I ask you though, before you say this match was boring, slow, predictable, go back and watch it from start to end in 2020 and see how you feel after the match. Remember, keep the sound on and just get lost in the match. I'll just say that I personally feel Meltzer was way off the mark here, and I know people buy his newsletter and the guy is knowledgeable, much more than you or I, but don't let a journalist tell you what is right and wrong about a wrestling match. Make up your own mind based on how much enjoyment you get out of seeing a match unfold. The second thing we need to talk about then is the story that Andre the Giant was considering not allowing Hogan to win on this night. It's been said that Hogan didn't know if Andre was going to do the job at WrestleMania III. The Hulkster was apparently afraid that Andre would take matters into his own hands in this main event and not lay down for Hogan. It's also been said that backstage, Andre didn't think too much of Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon said, Hogan was really concerned that Andre wasn't going to put him over, and Andre didn't want Hogan to know. Terry had so much respect for Andre that he wouldn't just go up to Andre and ask, "Are you going to put me over?" He wouldn't do that because that would be disrespectful. So there was always this doubt. Hogan would come up to me and ask if I was sure Andre would put him over. It was said on the Andre the Giant HBO documentary that Hogan laid out the entirety of the match, move for move, but he left the finish open because he didn't know if Andre would indeed do the job for him. He wrote down the entire match without the finish and presented the notes to Vince McMahon. Vince took the notes to Andre, and on March 29th at WrestleMania, Hogan asked Vince what the finish was going to be. Vince, playing along with Andre here while making Hogan stress out, simply told Hulk that Andre would do the right thing, and he left it at that. Hulk would try to approach Andre backstage as Andre drank his wine, asking if he was good and if he was okay, and Andre would act quite dismissive towards Hulk in the hours, even minutes, leading up to the biggest WWF showdown of all time. The Hulkster noticed though, as soon as the two began wrestling in the ring, that Andre was going through the exact steps that Hulk wrote down and presented to Vince McMahon, reassuring him here that Andre was indeed going to do the job for Hulk. Now, with all that said, and to kind of burst the bubble on this story, it's also been said that this was all fabricated. Guys who were in the locker room at the time said it was all nonsense, there was no hate with Hogan and Andre, and things were quite jovial between the two backstage at WrestleMania. Now, again, to be fair, Bret Hart was one of the guys who said the whole Hogan versus Andre backstage fiasco was fabricated, so take from that what you will, we know how Bret can be sometimes. Who knows, it makes a great story and adds to an already iconic and legendary wrestling match, but I do find it strange that the whole Andre might not do the job story only really came to light over the past couple of years. You'd think that this would be a big story, considering how important the match had become. And that was Hogan vs Andre at WrestleMania III. The feud wouldn't end here though. Hogan and Andre would lead teams into the inaugural Survivor Series event, and also Hulk and Andre would have a rematch that actually saw Andre the Giant defeat Hogan and become WWF champion. The next Hogan video uploaded to this channel will cover all this along with WrestleMania 4. Thanks for watching.